Tours20 here, and welcome back to Springwood. Today we're jumping straight into today's time-lapse. We're not screwing around with any cinematics, I just want to get straight into it because I do quite a lot in terms of figuring out the layout of the international airport and how I want the traffic to flow and, you know, the ins and outs of how everything kind of works. The main thing is the interchange for the international terminal and also figuring out the layout. Also, big news is that I finally fixed the airport functioning system. I guess it actually works now, that's what I'm trying to say. We have got planes landing and taking off and it works so perfectly, and thank you so much for everyone who was helping me out with that problem that we had a couple of weeks ago. Really appreciated it. I'll show you what I do and how I fix it in a live play at the end of the episode, so stay tuned for that. But to kick things off, we are going to be working on the interchange. That's going to be, well, it really needs to be a nice flowing system because being an international airport, you're going to get a lot of traffic. And when you do drive up to an airport, when you do drive up to particularly the international airport, the traffic just flows. I mean, if you ever notice when you, do go to a terminal like this, the traffic, you're not really hitting many traffic lights. You basically go, you're in, you're out. It's super quick. So I wanted to create a system that worked very similar to that. So I do go for very little traffic lights and a bit of a smaller interchange. I mean, it's quite tight. It's not a very big interchange, so it was pretty tricky to work with, and that's why the majority of the episode is me just figuring out how to fit it into this tight little area. If you're wondering where I'm sourcing the inspiration from, I'm pulling it from Sydney. I mean, I'm kind of basing it off there and kind of not. I mean, initially I do use it as inspiration, but then I kind of go off my own tangent, going back to how it looks every now and again, but generally it is just my own kind of creation. And if you know how I work, you know that I'm definitely not a road guy. Like I don't usually enjoy making interchanges like this. However, today, like, I did enjoy this one quite a lot. I was very much over it towards the end because it's kind of a big job that I leave a lot of the build out because it does get a bit boring, so don't worry, it's not gonna be the whole episode. It might actually only be about 5 minutes. So what I'm doing is this little section right now is the inwards traffic coming into the airport, and I've got 2 lanes of traffic that are basically coming from 2 sources, I guess. One is from the highway, which is the one that crosses the river there, and then the one on the left you can see is the traffic that is coming from the domestic terminal. So I mean, at the moment we only mostly get traffic coming from the domestic terminal because that is the closest area from the city, I guess. At the moment there's not very many people living on the other side of Springwood, mostly on the where we've been building the downtown and all that. Eventually I imagine this terminal to get really busy because as we increase the population and as we build more on this side of the river, there's going to be a lot more traffic coming from the highway side. All this will make more sense in the live play, which I should probably just leave it to the live play, I guess. Another thing that I'll be addressing in the live play is, because I'm not an airport guy, I don't really know too much about how it works. I've been asking the community, been asking you guys the things that I'm missing out on, the things I really need to fix up in terms of what I've been doing on the domestic terminal and additional bits and pieces that I need to add. I've taken a lot on board, so I'll also address the things that I've changed in the airport and the way it works in the live play at the end. Big thanks to everyone who's been helping me out build this airport. Like I said, definitely not an airport guy, don't really know how they work. Only pulling inspiration from various airports. By the way, I'm realizing that airports all around the world function in different ways. So again, pulling inspiration from Sydney Airport and then some from other airports like Newark Airport. Probably not the most realistic, but you know, Springwood is really just a city that is a mix of cultures. We got left-hand traffic, and it's clearly a city that is based in the US. So, you know, you just kind of got to go with what I'm doing. What I'm doing right now is I am developing just a bit of a system of how I want the air traffic to come into the terminal. Now, they're not where they're going to sit exactly. I only wanted to plot them down to see the interchange work, see if there's anything that I need to fix up, and just to figure out what needs to be changed in the future and whether it even works. Because the most annoying thing about this, some of the builds that I do, is that I'll build something and then I'll watch the simulation work and find out that this simulation doesn't work for what I built. So, you know, something that I do usually is I put down a bit of a placeholder to figure out if everything is going to work the way it should. Good news is that the airport works the way it should, which is so great. And, you know, it's all thanks to plopping those things down to begin with and finding out if there's anything broken or if there's anything that needs to be fixed up. What I'm doing now is I'm putting a bit of detail onto this road. I mean, the really annoying thing with doing elevated roads is that you can't use the prop line tool to drag down these decals. You have to place them down all by yourself. Very annoying. This took ages. I also, you know, go into a bit of detail, but like everything in Springwood, I don't go into huge amounts of detail because it's just it's not really one of those sort of cities. Only place a detail on places that really get enough attention, like just this little area here. And by the way, this is my first little turn using the traffic president mod to edit some of my highways in Springwood. I've only just got it, and I'm really glad I'm using it now. I'm also using functional car parks because it just saves me plopping down and saves me, you know, using more props when I plop down all my cars that I usually do. And also Sims use it properly rather than just looking the way it should using props. Anyway, rambling. More detailing on these interchange, on these little sections. Right now I am placing down some little walkways for some Sims to walk around because I wanted it to be a fairly walkable area here. I mean, if you can imagine when they built the airport, they would have made a lot of sections for parkland and for people to, you know, use it as recreational areas. Again, following what Sydney International Airport is doing. I mean, we have something very similar. We have a walkway for people just to walk around. I've never done it before, but when I went to the international airport a couple of weeks ago to drop somebody off, I noticed it and I was like, yep, totally going to add something like that in. By the way, I don't know if you can hear I live like underneath a flight path in Sydney. Well, I mean, sometimes it's a flight path, sometimes it's not. Really, it feels like I can only ever hear aeroplanes going over when I'm recording, which is so bloody annoying. But I've been laughing because as I've been building this airport, I can hear planes flying over me as well. Especially when I'm like looking at Sydney Airport on the map, and then I can hear planes flying over from Sydney Airport. I don't know, it's kind of funny. But yeah, I think this footpath works really nicely, and I'm pretty keen to be plopping down a lot more like recreational pathways and parks and stuff like that in Springwood, because I noticed that like I have a bit of a lack of recreational areas for the Sims in my city. I don't know, I've kind of been focusing more on buildings and like commercial areas rather than kind of making things a little bit nicer. Making things nicer, I'm really happy with how the foliage in this area turned out. I do kind of go a little bit too tree heavy, and then I just tone it down. It's such a problem when you place down trees. I tend to just want to plop down trees everywhere, and then somewhere that's meant to look like a city looks like a forest, and you have to kind of delete a whole bunch. You'll see that in the live play at the end. tone down those shrubs a little bit. But I just wanted to make it look a bit nice for everyone walking around this area. And also using some of the oil texture just to, as you can see, the brush strength is on like 0.08. So that when I hold down, only just a little touch comes out and it just makes it a little bit more sandy. Being a coastal city, but then also having a mix of desert with it. I mean, pulling inspiration from California, which is, only really like kilometers away from being in the desert. It's, has elements of sand and dryness to it. So, and especially like creeping out of the main areas of Springwood. I mean, we are kind of, we're actually right on the coast in this area, but you see what I'm saying. I like to just spread a little bit of dust and dirt around the city just a little bit, especially in patches, especially in areas like this. And it just helps to break up the green grass texture of the city, which I'm always trying to do. Now, what I'm doing on the screen is I'm finally making a cargo hub. This is something that I struggled with on the domestic side because I didn't really know how cargo hubs looked or functioned, and I never really had anything to go off. I ended up using Google Maps and then turning on all the icons and all the labels so that I could see where they sit within the Sydney terminal. And I found one, and I'm pretty much copying that exactly because, when you copy something exactly off Google Maps, it really helps to get that realism that I'm going for. And you always end up putting your own spin on it, as you'll see towards the end of this build. It definitely doesn't look the way I copied it, but it still looks like it functions. So how this one works is that I have planes coming in on a separate taxiway, and they can access this cargo hub without actually having to disrupt traffic going into the international terminal, which means that passengers don't have to sit behind big trucks and vice versa. And that's something that I've noticed within Sydney Terminal, is that the cargo side of the airport is very much separate to the passenger side of it. So that's something that I wanted to incorporate into this. As you can see, I'm copying this road on the one on Google Maps, so you can see that there's this road that just makes totally separate from the passenger side, and I wanted to copy that a bit, but I didn't have huge amounts of space to work with. I will show you how I properly place that down. I mean, you might have noticed how I placed it down just earlier, but I'll be going into more of that into the live play. But it fitted in really nicely. It's one of those things that I only noticed as I was building, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to fit it in, but just snuck it in, which is pretty good. And at the moment, not really very much trucks coming into this area. I probably need to place down some industry to actually get that happening. However, it will look really, really cool seeing just trucks coming down this one road here, and then all the cars going down the other side. Might have to hide some industry within that terminal so it really functions as a cargo area, which would just be it's so cool. Just totally nerding out. It'd just be so damn cool. Also fencing off this cargo area because I don't want Sims jumping over into this area of the airport and screwing with how everything works and getting up to mischief. Fence it off, cover up that fence with some trees. Just trying to create obviously an area where the government's probably splashed a lot of cash, but then also parts of the airport that are, probably not as interesting as the touristy side of it. Well, that's another point, is that airports, particularly international airports, handle a lot of tourism, and tourism is big bucks for cities and governments. So I wanted to make the airports, particularly the international side, really nice and flash, but then little parts of it that's just a little bit more run down than the touristy side of it. So I'm trying to think about where tourists will be driving. So lots of plants and trees and foliage and advertising and flowers around the roads where people first hit the terminal, but then behind the scenes making it a little bit grunge. So, you know, around here trying to break up the concrete a bit, you'll see me put down some cracks and skid marks and, you know, stuff like that. And also plopping down these crates. By the way, I just want to shoot around to this photo here because, you know, around Sydney Airport you have tons of these containers, and it's almost like you're at the airport when you hit this giant wall of it. And hopefully I can find the picture that I really wanted to show you. I might have to go and take the picture myself, but there's just like a giant wall of containers, and it's almost like they're using the containers as a wall. It looks awesome, and it's really like an iconic thing when you see these containers. You go, I must be close to the airport, and then you can see the planes taking over it. If you live in Sydney, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, and it's something that I always really enjoy because it kind of means you're either picking someone up from the airport that you haven't seen for a long time, or you're going on a trip yourself, or you're dropping someone off, which I guess isn't quite as nice, but you know, it's just something that's always exciting when you first hit the airport and you know you're about to you know, go to a place that is pretty exciting, but then you have to sit in lines and deal with airport traffic, and you know, that's pretty shit. But I do love airports. Another little area that I'm copying off Sydney is this little, it's kind of like this little area that's just for random stuff, random industrial stuff. But I mean, if you've been following my channel for a while, you know this is the sort of stuff that I like. It's just these random areas where people don't really see unless you work in an area like this, or you're a nerd and you're floating over Google Earth and looking at all these places. Just one of those areas that I'm building. And I can't remember who uploaded these boxes, but they're my new favorite boxes. I mean, damn you for making me download more stuff, but thank you again for all your amazing assets. They're so nice. They yeah, it's good for have a bit of a change. But yeah, I mean, in terms of what this little area is, I kind of imagine it to be a bit of a dumping ground for just random industrial stuff. Always plopping down these pipes and cars and things like this in just random areas. And yeah, who knows if they really function the way they should. And yeah, what else can I talk about at this airport? I think we've got probably about 2 or 3 more episodes based on the airport. That includes services for the airport, which was what I was meant to do last episode, but I ended up changing my mind. But yeah, I mean, that'll end up focusing on the, you know, things that you I don't know, things that service airports. Can you hit me up in the comments, because I don't really know what to stick down. Like, I'm thinking fire stations and mechanical areas, and I don't know. Tell me, please tell me. There's so many airport guys out there that really help me out with this. What sort of services do I need to put down in this airport? I don't really know, but definitely hit me up. I'm thinking about placing a lot of those things around the runway sections of the airport. I've got a couple of areas that I've designated for those services, and that'll probably take a whole episode. And then the industrial around the airport, I guess, will be another airporty episode, I guess. And then that'll be pretty much it. Like, I kind of feel sad to say goodbye to building on the airport because it's been so much fun. Surprisingly fun. I really have been putting it off for months because I didn't really want to do it. But now that I've started, I've actually really loved doing it. And I'll miss it. I'm going to miss building it. But now that it's built, I'm pretty keen to be taking some seriously lovely cinematics, because watching those planes coming into this airport is just really, really, really nice. And I'll be definitely taking a lot of cinematics, and I might even designate one whole episode just for it. What I'm doing now in the last little part of this time lapse is I'm just want to build this like little office area and a bit of a nicer looking car park, because like I said before, this is the spot where tourists will first see the international airport. Well, I guess people coming into the airport, so maybe not so much tourists leaving. So maybe it's like the last taste of Springwood and the last little flavor that they need to take home when they go back, when they board the plane. I wanted it to look really nice. So the car park's going to be super smick, and the sign's going to look super nice. And then the office is also one of the nicer office buildings that I've placed down in Springwood. Gardens, all that sort of shit. I wanted it to look super good. And also, I was going to, I actually asked on Twitter and on the Discord. I wanted to know what you thought about the abbreviated version, like the name of Springwood's airport. I I put it out to everybody, and I said, what do you think of SWX? A lot of people said, no, yeah, it's pretty good, but how about this? And I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. And I ended up just going with SWX. Thanks for contributing, but I don't know. I stuck this down, and I was kind of like, I'm not really sure about it, and then it really grew on me, so I just stuck with it. If you can convince me otherwise, I am all ears, but yeah, sorry for not listening. Although SWX does, apparently there's one in Botswana. It is a bit of a copy of a real life airport, but the reason why I like SWX is that it's obviously, S and W for Springwood, even though it's just the one word, and then the X is just a bit of a nod to the LA inspiration for Springwood. So that's why I really, really like it. Trying to figure out this garden side of it, again, really, really wanted to look nice, and following it off LAX sign, they've got a bit of a garden thing, and the lines of bush, also pretty cool, that I wanted to fit in a bit, and also trying to put my own creative spin on it. I didn't want to go too crazy with the trees behind, because like I said before, you can place down too many trees and all of a sudden you've got a forest. So trying to avoid that foresty look. Also trying to figure out this ground texture, because I wanted it to be like a super manicured grass, and wanted it to make it look a bit different. So I ended up going with a couple of different techniques, placing down Ronix's grass that he made, and then also placing down the manicured lawn as well, just to change it up a bit. And yeah, I think that's about it for what I'm doing here, because I'm going to go into live play in a sec and talk more about what I built and what I was thinking, and you can actually see how the interchange works, which is so damn good. I'm really excited to show you how it works. But I'll give you a quick break for my voice, and I'll see you guys in about 40 seconds. Hey guys, welcome back. So, here's the live play section of this episode, and I just want to take this time to go through how everything functions and the whole idea behind it. Makes more sense to do in a live play, it's a lot easier. So, first up, the interchange. It's damn cool. It's super tight. Like, in terms of an interchange, it is small, and it's not a big one. There is not much room to move around, and but it still functions really nicely. Okay, where can I start? Let's start with the entrance. So, by the way, there is a mod going around in the workshop. It's been around for ages. That basically gives you it means that you can have your own custom highway signs. I'm gonna get it in the next episode, most probably, so that we can actually see some signs saying airport and all that stuff. We will get to that a little later. For the time being, we got some gibberish. The sign, the SWX. The whole idea behind it is that I wanted it to be a real welcome sign to the airport. I wanted it to be seen from multiple angles for people coming into the airport. So, I mean, if you're coming via this bridge, then you can see it very clearly as you creep up. As you creep up to the airport. You can even see it from the other side of this. So, I mean, if you're coming from the domestic side of the airport, you can still see it. So, I mean, you can see it from multiple areas, and that's what I really wanted for that sign. Pretty really, I'm very happy with it. I'm really happy with it. Yeah, I mean, not much in terms of the interchange, but it's one of my favorite builds I've actually probably ever achieved, and you know, got some really nice turning areas for people who miss their turnoffs or people who need to re-enter the airport. Let's talk about the functionality of it. So I wanted it to be somewhat pretty when you enter the airport. Also, trees hiding and some grass hiding the cargo side of things. We have mostly people catching the monorail, the air train to the airport. Like, we got tons and tons of tourists. They're mostly coming from, a lot are coming from the airport, but also I've placed down some event spawners, which just spawns some traffic coming into the terminal, which is what I wanted to begin with. We are now getting flights into the actual airport. Let's get into that side. We basically, I had to download some new stands for the airport. My old stands weren't working anymore. I think it's because I was using Move It, and so thanks so much for everyone who pitched in with their comments and tried to help out with that. It was really helpful. Basically, problem solving, just going through all the different things that it could have been. Ended up being the most simplest form was just to download new plane stands. Super simple, fixed it. Now I'm also getting flights into the domestic side of it. As you can see, this guy coming in here. I mean, look, he's chopping off tails and everything, but it's just one of the limitations of this game. But I mean, he fits in pretty nicely. Ugh. Yeah, all right. Must have been drunk. The cargo side of things. Here's the cargo hub. Really happy with how it turned out. Pretty gritty, pretty grimy. Not really used by anyone except for people working around here. Around here, the containers, this random industrial area here, and then here is where the entrance to that industrial side of the airport is. So people do still have to sit at traffic lights if people are using this cargo hub. However, I don't see that as being much of a problem. As you see, no traffic buildup at the moment. But yeah, I mean, that is pretty much it for this episode. And thanks guys for tuning in. Thanks for all your help. We got a couple more episodes of airport stuff, and then we'll be moving on entirely. We might move on to a totally different area. But yeah, until the next episode, have a great week. Don't forget to like this video if it's likable. And yeah, have a great week. Catch you guys in the next one. See you later.